Good morning. Now we'll continue with the second part of the chapter 1, that is rise of British rule in India. Yesterday we saw the rise of British rule in India, that is discovery of new sea to India, then arrival of Europeans to India, Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar. Now we'll continue with the next part, that is expansion of company rule. Now as we learned that because of Battle of Buxar, the British got the first right to collect revenue from Indian people, and later, with the span of 100 years, they expanded their rule much in India. The English government passed a regulating act in 1773 AD, according to which the governor of Bengal was made the governor general, and all the trade and political activities of the company were brought under his direct control. See, Bengal was a huge province of that time, so it was the main center. The Mumbai Madras governor and his council were brought under him. Thus, Warren Hastings became the first Governor General of India. During his tenure, the first Maratha War and the second Mysore War with Hyder Ali of Mysore was waged. The problems of the East India Company increased because it had to face both the powers simultaneously. Now, from Maharashtra, Maharashtrian people were attacking these Britishers, and from Mysore, Hyder Ali was attacking them. So it was quite difficult for them to compete with both of them. Cornwallis took over as Governor General after Warren Hastings. During the tenure of Cornwallis, the Third Mysore War took place with Tipu Sultan, famously known as Tiger of Mysore. The company had to join hands with the Marathas and the Nizam to defeat the Tipu Sultan. Tipu could not win against the combined forces and had to accept the treaty. After Cornwallis, Sir John Shore became the Governor General. Due to some rigid policies adopted by him, the East India Company's fame declined and Maratha became stronger. So, Governor General Wellesley, who came after John Shore, got the responsibility of making the company supreme in India. For this, Wellesley introduced the subsidiary alliance system. The conditions of the subsidiary alliance system and the state adopted under this are as follows. See, now subsidiary alliance system was such a system कि आप कुछ भी करो उसमें ब्रिटिशर्स का ही फ़ायदा होगा. Once you accept the system, anyhow Britishers will get something from this system. It was like a sweet poison. तुरंत से हमारा कुछ नहीं चला जाएगा, पर धीरे 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 करके हमारी सब चीज़ें उनके पास जाती जा रही थी. So, what were the terms and conditions of the subsidiary alliance system? We'll see. The army trained by the East India Company government will be provided to the state that accept the system. Now, any state, if accept this subsidiary alliance system, he will be provided the army of the trained British army to that king whenever he requires. But in return, the state accepting the system will provide for the army or give away province with equivalent income to the British. So it was give and take relation. वो कुछ ऐसे के ऐसे हमारे कुछ भी नहीं करेंगे. So if at all we are accepting this treaty, then in return we will have to give them money or army whenever they require. Without the permission of the company, the state will not wage war or sign treaty with the other state. Now, if you want to fight with other state or want to take revenge, then first you have to take the permission of Britishers. You have to inform them. So ultimately जो main चाबी थी उनके पास थी. There will be one English representative in the state assembly. Every state who accept the system, there will be one English representative. So that person will be knowing everything, whatever king is deciding for the state, he will be knowing in advance, and that thing will be informed to the British government, to the East India Company. Other foreigners would not be employed in the state. So only there will be Britishers. No other foreigners could be employed in the state. So that whole place was secure for Britishers, and then two number of kings were accepting such policies. So the state and the rulers who accepted the subsidiary alliance system were Nizam, Mysore, Awadh, Gaikwad, Sindhia, Bhosle and Holkar. These people accepted this subsidiary alliance system. Subsidiary alliance system was like a sweet poison. By implementing this system, Wellesley annexed many provinces and expanded the rule of the East India Company. The Governor General Wellesley asked Tipu Sultan to accept the subsidiary alliance system, which he refused. For declining the alliance system, the company, with the support from Nizam, attacked Mysore in 1799. During the Fourth Mysore War, Tipu lost his life while fighting against British. See now, हमारे country की जो भी दशा हुई थी, why British ruled on us, the responsible person were we only, क्योंकि हमारे उसमें यूनिटी नहीं थी. एक किंग ब्रिटिशर्स की हेल्प करता है दूसरे किंग को हराने के लिए, एंड अल्टीमेटली द नेक्स्ट किंग लूजेस, एंड दैट थिंग इज़ अचीव्ड बाय द ब्रिटिशर्स, क्योंकि हारने वाली किंग की चीज़ें भी किसके पास जा रही थी, ब्रिटिशर्स के पास जा रही थी. बट दैट सिंपल थिंग वी वर नॉट एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड, and thus they were going on expanding their empire in India. After Wellesley, Hastings came to India as a Governor General. He waged war with Nepal and made the Gurkhas to join army. Hastings fought a battle with the Pindaras and took control over them. See, Gurkhas, you know, जो नेपाल के लोग होते हैं उनको हम गुरखास के नाम से जाने जाते हैं. Then वो who are Pindaras, if you have seen the movie Veer of Salman Khan, these people were shown as Pindaras, and they were also fighting with the English government. So Pindaras are like Banjaras. So they were fighting with British, but they also lost. They also fought battle with Hastings and they lost. With the Third Maratha War, the supremacy of the company was established. In comparison to the earlier Governor General, William Bentinck is known as a liberal Governor General. Bentinck believed that dissatisfaction in different states due to the imperialistic policy adopted by the previous Governor Generals could not bring about any unity. So he was very liberal in his deeds. See now, एक इंसान किसी इंसान के साथ गलत करता ही जाता है, then there will be a point when they will not accept the things. So William Bentinck was not like other Governor Generals. He was somewhat liberal with the Indian peoples. Then after him came Dalhousie. लॉर्ड डलहौसी को आप जलियांवाला बाग के ऐसे करके किस्से में भी नाम से भी जाने जाते हो. Dalhousie came to India as Governor General in 1848. He was a fierce imperialistic. Dalhousie adopted the policy of annexation for the expansion of the company and the British imperialism in India. Now what does mean by annexation? Annexation का मतलब होता है छीनना, जिसको हम गुजराती में कहते हैं झूठवे ले हो. सो किसी ना किसी रीज़न की वजह से वो लोग किसी प्रोविंसेस को अपना बना लेते थे. Here the table has been shown where there are different criteria under which he achieved number of states for British government. First was annexation by war. Punjab and Pegu, Lower Burma. These were the regions which he annexed by war. Then annexation due to the king dying without heir. Now dying without heir मतलब कोई भी संतान ना होना, कोई वारिस नहीं है. So that region will be taken under control of Britishers. So which were such places? Satara, Jaipur, Sambalpur, Udaipur, which is in MP, not of Rajasthan, Jhansi, Bhagat and Nagpur. Annexation on the pretext of mismanagement. Mismanagement की pretext पे वो ले लेता था. That is Awadh. Now you have seen Awadh, वो battle of Buxar में भी नवाब of Awadh थे. So that region was taken under the pretext of mismanagement. Then annexation on pretext of debt collection. So Nizam provinces was taken under that name. Annexation to end a namesake rule, that was Karnataka and Tanjore. Besides being an imperialistic, Dalhousie was also reformer. Yes, he was reformist. Many of the changes in India has been brought by that person. The first railway line in India between Mumbai and Thane in 1853 AD was developed by him. Wireless system between India and England, establishment of public property department, English education, etc. were all introduced during his tenure. He passed laws to ban child marriage and advocated widow remarriage. Within 100 years from the Battle of Plassey in 1757, The British rule and the empire both expanded. See now, if you have seen the movie Mangal Pandey or if you have read about it, the first revolt of India was started in 1857. So right after 100 years. So 100 years में उन लोगों ने बहुत कुछ expand कर लिया था. But in the process, they had to face dissatisfaction of the people of the Indian state, and this was manifested in the form of first struggle for independence in 1857. Now, we'll see the economic impact of the company. See now, economic impact मतलब जो इंडिया जो एक ज़माने में सोने की चिड़िया जाना जाता था, जिसकी वजह से उसकी प्रॉस्पेरिटी देख के काफ़ी सारी यूरोपियन कंट्रीज़ इंडिया में आई थी, अब उन्होंने इसी इंडिया का क्या हाल करके रखा था. विल सी दैट. When we evaluate the 100 years of the company rule in India, we realize that India, which had an inevitable position in the world in the previous centuries, became merely a country that produced a raw material for England and a prospective market for goods produced in the factories. Now, जो चीज़ हम अपने लिए बनाते थे, आज हम सब उनके पपेट बन के रह गए थे. We were producing for them. Bengal exported cotton cloth, raw silk, jute, sugar, muslin from 1708 to 1756. But after the dual power policy, the glitter of the economic prosperity of Bengal faded. The dual power policy, which was known as Dvimukhi Sashan, was introduced for the first time in Bengal, whereby the power of collecting revenue was with the Britishers and the responsibility of people's welfare was with the Nawab. So it was like a white collar work and blue collar work. They were just collecting the money. टैक्सेस वो कौन लेता था? ब्रिटिश लेते थे, और उनको सब मज़दूरों को या पूरे स्टेट की जिम्मेदारी, स्टेट को संभालने की जिम्मेदारी किस पर हुआ करती थी? नवाब पर हुआ करती थी. Thus, the British got the power without any responsibility, and the Nawab had the responsibility without any power. This was known as the subsidiary land system, which ruled Bengal economically. The unfair revenue collection policy by the company made the Indian peasant a debtor. The British government imposed unfair taxes on the Indian clothes industry. They adopted various deceitful practices to ruin the prosperous Indian industry, because of which it completely collapsed. The Indian artisan became poor and poorer. The company trader forced the weavers of Bengal to sign contract for providing definite quantity of cloth in a short period. If the weaver refused, they would be punished by being lashed or jailed. अगर वीवर मना कर देता था, एक डेफिनेट टाइम में वो लोग को बहुत ज़्यादा क्वांटिटी चाहिए होती थी, प्रोडक्शन हम करें, मेहनत हम करें, और चीज़ें लेके वो लोग ब्रिटेन में या इंग्लैंड में बेचते थे एंड द प्रॉफिट वॉज अर्न बाय देम. We were just the workers of Britishers. Before the arrival of the company, the Indian villages were self-reliant and prosperous. But under the company rule, they became dependent and poor. During the rule of East India Company, the first railway line between Mumbai Thane and a steamer service between India and England was started, and the development of the ports in Mumbai, Madras, and Kolkata also took place. See, if we see that development took place, it was also Britishers did this for their own benefit, not thinking about India. So, India, which was a self-reliant country at one time, became a labor of Britishers or England. Now we'll see social impact of the company rule. See now, any country also gets socially affected by any change in a country. अगर हमारे घर में भी कुछ बाहर से कोई चीज़ आए या कोई इंसान आए, तो हमारे घर की सिस्टम भी चेंज हो जाती है. सो देयर वॉज सम सोशल इम्पैक्ट ऑन द इंडियन सोसाइटीज़ बिकॉज ऑफ द ब्रिटिश रूलर्स. व्हाट वर दे? ड्यूरिंग द ब्रिटिश एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, द स्पिरिट ऑफ फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एंड थॉट डेवलप अमॉन्ग द पीपल ड्यू टू द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ न्यूज़पेपर. अब घर घर न्यूज़पेपर जाते थे, जिसकी वजह से लोगों को भी पता चलता था कि आखिर हमारे कंट्री में होता क्या हो क्या रहा है, एंड दे वर गेटिंग अवेयर ऑफ द इनजस्टिस बीइंग डन इन इंडिया. In the Indian society, certain wrong social, social customs like rites and rituals were prevalent during this time, like sati system, female infanticide, matlab दूध पीती, child marriage, etc. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Durga Ram Mehta, Behramji Malbari, etc. were the stalwart whose role was instrumental in getting the law passed with the help of Britishers. So this is something, a positive side of something. जो ये सब गलत प्रैक्टिसेस हमारे कंट्री में चलती थी उनको रोकने में ब्रिटिशर्स का बहुत बड़ा हाथ है. As the administrative framework in India was anglicized, there was a demand for people with knowledge of English. So now came a knowledge of English. These people were ruling over India, but the population of India was not knowing this language. They were wanting people who know them, who can do their work. So they started imparting English education to the people of India. English education became to be imparted in India due to Lord Macaulay's endeavour. As recommended by Charles Wood, universities were established in Mumbai, Madras and Kolkata. A whole class of people with knowledge of English developed because of English education. With the passage of time, this group made demands for social reforms and gave momentum to the progress of reforms. Thus, we can say that East India Company came to India being allured by the prosperity and ट्रेड अपॉर्चुनिटी. अलर्ट का मतलब होता है अंजाई जाओ, उसकी चमक देख के वो यहाँ पे आए थे. The company rule in India produced certain good and bad results in the political, economical, social and cultural fields. The company adopted the policy of making India prosperous at the cost of India. This is very important. They became prosperous at the cost of India. जो चीज़ें हमारे पास हुआ करती थी, जो पैसे हमारे थे, the prosperity of India was completely taken away by Britishers. And the reforms they made in the administration for their own interest. As I say, they did something for their interest only. अगर उन्होंने रेलवे लाइन डाली थी, it was not for India, it was for their benefit, for their saving of time. So, indirectly proved to be beneficial to India. Though they did for themselves, it indirectly proved beneficial to India, but it was at a big cost. India was something known to the whole world for its culture, for its prosperity, but everything was taken away by Britishers. So we'll finish over here. You have seen the rise of British rule in India, how they came over here. They came to India in 1600 AD and they ruled over India till 1947. So nearly 350 years they ruled over India and they achieved a lot. They had taken a lot from India.
Any problem, we need a historical perspective. Only then it makes sense as to what caused, what happened, and what can be done. India's colonial experience provides that perspective. In this video, we're going to look at colonial impact on broad sectors of the economy and social classes. Since the 18th century, the world economy has been influenced by two major forces. One is the Industrial Revolution and the second one is colonialism. And it is because of these two forces, the world was divided into developed and developing economies. Industrial Revolution took place in Western Europe, especially Britain, and the impact due to this revolution is unmatched. It led to increase in productivity of labor and prosperity, mainly because machines changed people's way of life as well as their methods of manufacture. However, the benefits of this revolution did not reach the regions of Asia, Africa and Latin America. It is simply because of colonialism. These regions became impoverished after they became colonies. So Industrial Revolution and colonialism worked parallel because it prospered the countries of Europe and looted the countries which were their colonies. Now India's colonial experience under British was for 2.5 centuries, that is from 1700 to 1947. This timeline can be further divided into two important halves, just to understand the problem in a better sense. The first half was from 1700 to 1857, wherein India was ruled by a trading company called East India Company, and the other half, that is from 1858 to 1947, witnessed a direct rule by the British Crown. Now these two periods represented different kinds of British interest in India, and that got further translated in their economic policies for India. The trading activities of East India Company were very harsh. They would underpay the peasants, weavers, and local merchants while trading goods. Often their methods of doing business involved violence, coercion, and other sorts of threats. Then they also introduced the land revenue system in India, wherein the company would collect revenue on land. Under this system, zamindari, riyotwari, and mehelwari systems of land settlements were created, which further increased the problems of Indian agriculture and peasantry. Because now the system created a new class of intermediaries, that is, the middlemen, who collected revenue on behalf of the company. Try to understand this. Now the peasants had to pay more in terms of revenue demand of the company, which also included the marginal commission of middlemen. This created immense pressure on the peasants. They were forced to shift their cultivation from food crops to commercial crops. As a result, the peasants became market dependent for food grains, and that led to large scale famines. Due to combined weight of all these problems, peasants were forced to sell their lands to merchants and moneylenders, or become tenants on the estate lands. Simultaneously, the rural craft and urban industry faced similar problem, and due to that, workers joined the ranks of landless and poor. In the middle of this crisis, the intermediaries, that is the middlemen, they emerged as the new dominant social class. Neither the company nor the middlemen showed any interest in the long-term development of agriculture through investments. Now this problem only became worse after the shift of power from the company to the British Crown. It became pretty evident that the British industry required India to be their major source of raw materials and an assured market for British manufacturers. Now this is where it gets very interesting. The British now felt the compulsion to invest in India, and that too in selected sectors of irrigation, transport network, and port development. As the civil and revenue administration grew, they also felt the requirement of manpower. Therefore, to meet that requirement, English education was introduced. Now, for a moment, you may realize, look, there is an investment by the British for the betterment of India. Then you must also realize at the cost of what? There were no relief to the peasants, revenue demands were increasing, and the laborers employed in tea, coffee, and rubber plantations in India lived in slave like conditions. Indian industry also suffered a major decline under the Crown rule. Competition from British manufacturers meant a decline in demand for domestic handlooms, metals, tools, paper products, and so on. This competition ruined millions of artisans and craft industries. British capital was mainly directed to banking, commerce, shipping, and insurance, so there was no development of heavy industries. They never encouraged any native entrepreneur class to create business. This method of declining traditional industries and not letting the modern and heavy industries grow is known as deindustrialization. And if you have seen the video of Mr. Sashi Tharoor's speech at Oxford Union, there he nicely said Britain's Industrial Revolution was actually premised upon the deindustrialization of India. British introduced new ways of draining the Indian economy. India's foreign trade surplus were transferred to British accounts. India was also made to pay for British wars in Afghanistan and China. So these were some of the ways of draining the Indian economy. But overall, the economic impact of colonial rule in India was devastating. They took no responsibility for any kind of welfare of Indians. And because of colonialism, Indian economy faced stagnation and decline, which later on became a major challenge for development of the independent India. If you want to see more of such educational